Modern Salon Podcast. So I have my co-host with me, Sneha, and I think we're gonna talk about political correctness in the first episode, and I think it's gonna serve as a sort of foundation to other episodes to come. And I think perhaps the issues that we talk about may not solely remain political or even philosophical, so to speak. I think it is going to span literature, science, mathematics, technology, and everything. Essentially, the reason why we want to start this podcast is that I think intellectual development, or even more generally speaking, the development of an individual starts through conversation, directly or indirectly. And I think right now the world has gotten to a point where people in both sides of the political debate, even the left and the right, both of them adopt totalitarian strategies in order to, subjugate others and fundamentally express their views. And I think that is going down a path that won't take the world to any progress. Instead, I believe in free speech and intellectual discussion on certain topics, and I think that's the way to grow. So yeah, let's start on the first topic, political correctness. So Sneha, what do you think about this? What is your opinion on this?
Okay, first of all, political correctness started as from the left, and it is the main movement in the left, on the left politics. And generally, it is fine. It's good to be politically correct individually. It's political correctness does always indicate, when it comes to language, to say the right things, to not simply, it means not to be rude to others and being polite to others, especially in the internet, online. And it's good to be fine. It's good and fine to be politically correct individually, but to assert that this is how it should be and everyone should kind of follow this norm and may not give the desirable effect. I don't think it's effective enough. It is used as a kind of this path to lead to the end goal, where there is no sexism, racism, misogyny, of any homophobia, transphobia, any of those things in the society. And to see political correctness as a path, which would lead to that goal, that's not true, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think a political correctness, so to speak, I think it started as a kind of satire for the left to criticize themselves.
Yeah, an inside joke.
I think it was an inside joke, yeah. So I think my problem with political correctness, it is that, especially when you go with language, for example, there was this bill, C-16, that was introduced in Canada. Basically, the bill said that the usage of certain pronouns for transgender people were considered illegal. Like, suppose you mention a he as a she, or more commonly, they, them as either of those pronouns. I think for me, I don't have any issue with addressing people with the desired pronouns. I don't think if somebody wanted to, let's say they said that I would prefer if you address me with this certain pronoun, I don't have a problem with that. My problem is with the legislation of that bill. Essentially, we're constraining language. It's not about the specific context that it's taken from. It's more like a philosophical problem. It's like, should we constrain language? Or like, if this is done, what is going to follow, right? What is going to follow? Like, this is just the start. I feel like once we do that, we don't have any excuse in restricting other languages, other preferred way of speech. And moreover, another thing that concerns me with political correctness is that, for example, there are areas where suppose a person adopts another culture's way of style, for example, so to speak. I think one example would be an American person wearing braids, which is considerably a trait of African Americans, and that is often considered as politically incorrect. I don't think so. I think what we should hone our mindset is a world where people from all cultures should have the freedom to express each other's cultures, because fundamentally I don't think I think this creates something of a tribalist effect or even in case of certain countries, a nationalist effect. Like it is more like this is our property, and others shouldn't be able to use it. I agree there are cases where people mock other cultures due to this sort of thing. I agree, but legislating that, and I think it is going to be done in many Western countries. I think legislating this is dangerous to free speech and free expression itself, and I don't think that's the way the world should progress.
Yes, I agree. Earlier with the Richard Dawkins issue, which happened like a week ago or something, he was revoked an award which he got in 1996, just 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago, for making a tweet by the American Humanist Association, which cancels free speech. It cancels conversation, whether or not you agree with someone or what's particular something someone said. You need to stop or cancel that. It is actually canceling conversation, and which is kind of acts as a barrier for protests, however you define it.
Yeah, yeah. So that is pretty much my. I think furthermore, like I think one of the leading postmodernist Marxist philosophers, Slavoj Zizek, addresses this problem. He says that without, I mean, it depends on context. Like you make one of his experiences was that he was in a book signing, and two African Americans came there, and he made a joke. He said that you black people look all the same, but the context of the joke was different. Immediately from his experience, they hugged him and they said, "You can call me the N-word," right? And I think it fundamentally depends on the context of things. Like an African American uses the N-word to address his fellow African Americans, it's not a problem. But I think a lot of it's contextual, and it is pretty complex to unravel it. But I think without these what people classify as obscenities, I don't think it's possible to maintain a deeper connection with people. Just simply remaining formal and structured. Definitely structured. We do need structure, but pushing that to the such extent that it is completely formal, I don't think it is. What do you call? What's the word I'm looking for? I think it is not beneficial for maintaining closer relationships with people, and fundamentally, despite anything that we say, I think people fundamentally develop through other people. Without the endeavors of other people, we cannot simply develop. That is like a fact of the world. Like a person without any other person perceives the world from other people. It is not like we create something original. We interact with others. We develop our ideas through other people. Essentially, we live through other people. Yeah. So that's what I think about that. Yeah,
I agree with that. And also another issue with political correctness is main issue I have with it is it cancels conversation. It cancels conversation. It cancels facts, and it has kind of an opposite effect to what it actually probably started out on, what actual liberalism stands for. Probably I would go with Stephen Fry's. Stephen Fry has talked about something like this idea of political correctness may have emerged to be inclusive, to accept diversity, and it's doing the opposite thing. It's canceling diversity of thoughts and ideas and being exclusive in the case of languages, and that's the main issue, and one of the main issues. And
I do think that I think one of the I think like there is like a psychologist called Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
While I disagree with his philosophies on postmodernism, so to speak,
Yeah.
I disagree with a lot. I don't think he creates a compelling argument for refuting postmodernism. He creates a practical argument, but I think there may be better practical arguments that can address the issue of postmodernism. But I do believe that what he says about political correctness is somewhat in the right direction. I think he says that it is canceling free speech. That is his main issue with it. I actually came across this video where he was giving a lecture, and people, instead of debating him, They were just shouting words. They were saying shame, shame, and they were using these noises. I think the extreme left, like there's this, I think there's this phenomenon called social justice warriors. I think people have taken that too far. They have like that. They are no different from what the extreme right does. They are essentially like, what do you call, subjugating others with their views, right? They are forcing others to agree with them. I don't think that should be the issue. I think it's the diversity of opinions what progresses the world. I think without an opposing side to offer resistance to our ideas, I don't think progress is possible. Then it's no different from, let's say, a one-party state, right? I think it should be a constant back and forth between ideas and stuff.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I think we agree on this issue mostly.
Perhaps. Go on.
Okay. Well, mostly this political PC has an issue on online internet, especially on Twitter. And if, say, for example, if someone makes a comment which a person calls it out as any misogynistic or racist or whatever, and there are two chances, maybe more than that. Like it could be either that person is what people are naming him as, like him or her as, or it can be that they didn't really mean it and they are actually making some valid statement. Or sometimes they could have just missed the memo of, okay, this is being bad, this is rude or whatever. Saying this is now not exactly the desirable thing in the correct political current times. So if a kind of group of people just starts calling him or her some names, or labeling is that sexist or racist, if that person really meant it and was being racist, probably he or she would think that that they are being right. No one would say something that they don't think that is right? Am I making sense?
Yeah, I think I think point is like, I think it's pushing the far right as well, right? Political correctness is not having the effect that the left thinks it has. Yeah, okay. Yeah, go
on. And so if a kind of mob or group of people just start spamming or labeling and calling names, it would have the correct opposite effect. They would have much more, aggressive stance or extreme stance to what they had, that opinion they had. Okay, I am being kind of name called or whatever, so I should take a much more aggressive stance to that and resist this injustice that's happening to me. That would be one opinion, that kind of one say behavior, or kind of, that would be the response that would they have. Or if they did not really mean it and they are actually making some valid statement in that whatever they tweeted or said, and there is a mob or group kind of spamming them or name calling, you're essentially canceling conversations. You are not taking care of the facts they are saying, and so it would be much more better to have conversation, to talk about why do they think it is, or it's much more better than labeling something or banning the expression of thoughts or ideas.
Yeah, I agree. I think perhaps I think a conversation essentially, or anything, I think comes from this is like a general thing. I think any interesting phenomenon comes from conflict, right? Some kind of conflict, whether it's big or bad or small or anything. It fundamentally arises from conflict. Without conflict, I don't think life will exist, because let's say we have the invention of the electric bulb. Thomas Alva Edison had a conflict within him. He was battling with this idea. Obviously, there were many scientists who did the background work, but this is just an example, right? So he was battling this idea of illuminating the world. He wanted to eradicate darkness so that people could live more comfortably. He was having a conflict with this problem that he had, and I think perhaps the subject that we chose is one that we both agree on, and I don't think there's enough conflict there to spark debate. Perhaps I am, so since we have both expressed our views on what political correctness means, I'm gonna want to perhaps, I don't think this is a controversial issue, but I think my opinions are a little bit controversial on this. I think we can try to bring that issue as well, because it is related to this. I think I want to speak about morality, right?
Okay.
Okay. So what I think is, I don't believe there is objective morality. I don't think there is right or wrong. I'm taking essentially what is called perhaps a Nietzschean stance, or maybe a postmodern stance on morality. I think like postmodernism, the essential tenet of postmodernism is that there are infinite ways to interpret any event, and we cannot objectively determine which one is the correct one. And I think that disintegrates the idea of morality, and I don't think that's like a good thing. Like there is this quote. I think let's consider history, right? Morality essentially arose from religion, right? We can be moral with our religion. I'm not saying that is possible, but it essentially came from religion. If we take the Western world, it came from Judeo-Christian values.
Yeah.
And I think there is this statement that Nietzsche makes. I don't remember which book it was. It's a pretty famous statement, but most people misrepresent it. I actually wrote like a blog post on that. So what he says is that God is dead, God remains dead, and we have killed him. How shall we comfort ourselves, the murderers of all murderers? And he goes on and on. Now, a lot of atheists take the statement, God is dead, and say, look at this. A philosopher, a prominent philosopher, said that God is dead. He believed in atheism. That was not the case. Nietzsche knew that perhaps the death of God would be such a monstrous event that it would give a rise to a cynical and a nihilistic philosophy. And that's what happened. And he wanted to propose a way out of that. Like, he knew that there are no objective systems. And that was, rather than a solution, that was more like a problem. And I think postmodernism arose based on Nietzsche's work, based on Nietzsche's groundwork, that was essentially the problem that Nietzsche was trying to solve. And I think postmodernism adopted Marxism as a way to, get out of this problem of these infinite interpretations and to create a better world. I do believe that their intentions were right, but I don't think Marxism is a solution to that. So, like, what do you think about morality? What is your stance on that?
Yeah, I don't really have a clear-cut opinion. We have Sam Harris's view, kind of many issues. I'm just kind of, I really don't have a deep reading on that issue. I don't really think objective morality exists because, take the example. Well, what we think right now at this time can change. The views and concepts can change. That's essentially what I think about it. Yeah, and what else? Okay. Well, what do you suppose? You disagree with objective morality?
I do disagree with objective morality. I think what the solution should be is like I think people may consider this an existentialist stance. I think we should create our own values, our own systems, because fundamentally lack of objective morality is not a good thing. I don't think like it is like it is not possible, right? It is a falsehood. It is never possible. I believe that every time there is a being who can think freely, if freedom exists, objective morality does not exist. So right now, I am sure that freedom exists because I am free. That's like an empirical statement for me. And therefore, objective morality does not exist. That's what I think. And to combat this problem, there obviously after these objective systems, these grand narratives all crumble, I think it leads to nihilism, which I used to be nihilistic for a long period of time. And I think that is a very dangerous, very, very bad state to be in. I think it makes a person cynical and resentful for the world. It prevents a person from taking responsibility. Frankly, I believe that we are responsible for everything, every human being's actions. Everyone is responsible for everything. It's just a matter of fact whether you want to take responsibility for that. And I think by taking complete responsibility for that, you live a much more meaningful and much more fulfilled life. And I think as a way to combat this sort of lack of objective metrics and objective values, I think you should create your own values, and that's what Nietzsche said. I do agree with that. I disagree with a lot of Nietzsche saying, but that's one thing that I agree with him. I think that what do you like to call the Ubermensch or the Overman, if you're considering the specific English translation. Or often people call it the Superman, but that's not what he meant. Uber actually means kind of like the closest translation is over, right? And what Nietzsche wanted to do was to create our own values and value systems and abide by them, not necessarily stating the fact that it should be rigid, right? It shouldn't be rigid. It should be adaptable. We should have a balance between rigidity and freedom, right? It should be like a delicate balance. We should follow these values, but whenever we rationally think about these values, are these values making myself better or the world better or other people better, right? Essentially, values must change according to betterment, if so to speak. I think it depends on what you're trying to make better. Some people are trying to make the world better. Some people are trying to make themselves better. Some people are trying to make their country better. It depends. Essentially, to sum up in one statement, values should change according to betterment. And that's what I think. For example, I now follow a set of values, and I'm not saying that those will be rigid. I think they will change over time. So that's what I essentially think. Yeah.
Okay, so basically that meaning is not, the meaning of life is not something God given or one or it's not given to us. We have to make our own meaning or find it up, make it up for our own. Is that?
Yes, I do think that. I mean, it is a complex issue. Like this was one of the positions Jean-Paul Sartre, one of the most prominent French intellectuals, said. Like he said that man is condemned to be free, and I think his point was that we should make our own meaning. I think it depends. Like it depends on whether we have a fundamental nature, right? Do we have a fundamental nature? That's a very complex question. Like, are we something that is completely? I think it depends on it's very complex to talk about it. So do we have a nature, fundamental nature of being? Like most of science, at least is hinting towards. They have not proved it yet. But do we have, like, we haven't understood the brain itself. But most of the science is proving most of psychology at least is hinting towards the fact that we have a fundamental nature, right? And it is rigid, and we can only build upon that nature. What I think is the fact that we have another unconscious entity inside us. That's my theory. I think that we have another one or multiple unconscious entities that reside within us, and I think the nature of thoughts that we are not conscious. There are thoughts that we are not conscious, right? For example, let's say I'm drinking, like I have this water with me, right? I'm not actively thinking about taking this water and drinking it. It happens automatically. I'm not thinking about that, right? And I think perhaps that there is a possibility that these thoughts or these actions that we are not consciously thinking about, like right now I'm speaking, right? I'm thinking about it consciously. I'm just articulating my words. I'm articulating my thoughts. I'm articulating my ideas. But these things, I think they are controlled by another unconscious entity that's inside us. Something like there have been a lot of psychologists who believe in this, like Carl Jung called the anima. There were a lot of things, and I think perhaps the things, like perhaps these unconscious entities influence us, right? Suppose we go out, we see something, we like it. That feeling, I don't think we're consciously generating that. Perhaps like in any other way that another person influences us, right? I think unconscious entities influence us in the same way. I think that may be the basis, and that creates space way for both conversation. It is not just, it's not like it's completely our nature, or it is not like we're completely uninfluenced by stuff. It's like a middle ground. It is the fact that there is something that influences us, but at the same time we are here to create our own values, create our own actions, do our own beliefs, express our own freedom, essentially,
Okay. So in the case of free will, are you coming to that area? Kind of free will.
Yeah, I think we do have free will. I think free will is empirical fact. I think Rene Descartes said that I think, therefore I am. I actually wrote like an article. I haven't published it, but in that I actually said I think, therefore I am free. I think freedom is a byproduct of thinking. Once you think, you're free. I think that's an empirical fact. That's an axiom. I do believe that.
Okay. So how is this entirely thing? How do you think it's entirely related to political correctness, the main topic?
I think political correctness. I think it's more about like I think a lot of I think extreme left and extreme right. I think even political. Let's take political correctness, right? People deal with it as an objective reality, and this objective reality actually disintegrates once there is a free being. That's this essentially the point I'm trying to come to. A free being implies lack of objective reality, lack of objective metrics or objective values implies political correctness is not objective. So that's kind of the point I am trying to come to. And furthermore, I think the another reason why I want to take the topic, divert the topic, so to speak, is that I don't think we have enough conflict in that fact that political we both agree a lot on these things. So I think perhaps it would be interesting to see what our views on related topics, but potentially conflicting ones, right?
Okay, so about fundamental human nature you're talking about. So you don't think it exists? Like we are building it upon, like as time passes, as years go on, as you know, is that what you said?
I mean, it is complex, it is nuanced, it is hard to pinpoint, but I think there are factors to essentially sum it up. I think there are factors that influence us. There are undoubtedly factors that influence our nature, but I think the control of what our nature could be is completely within us, right? There may be, let's say, there may be blocks in changing, there may be a resistance, right, by these factors. And I believe they come from unconscious entities. I don't know. I don't know if that is true, or I don't know if that can ever be proven to be true. I don't know. But I think they come from these unconscious entities, these thoughts. Essentially, thoughts are a byproduct of beings, right? Thoughts are byproducts of beings, and these are thoughts, and hence there will be beings in our mind that we don't even know about. I think these beings have resistance against something. So, for example, let's say a person who might have this is just a hypothetical example, right? A person who might have beings in his mind or brain or wherever it resides, in his consciousness, so to speak, right? I suppose these beings are more like conservative in some stances. So suppose, let's say, they are conservative, and I think that would present a roadblock to him or her on becoming liberal, right? I think my main point I'm trying to get across, that I'm trying to communicate, is the fact that there are factors that influences us, but we are in complete control of the being, of what we are, what we could become, right?
Okay, I necessarily do not agree with that or disagree with that. Okay, so what else?
I think that is the topic. I think we could try to just speak around on general topics in the first episode. Like I could I know like people are gonna view this section, and I'm thinking of like putting like political correctness and more, kind of like that. I think that would serve. I think that would be better, as it would potentially serve as a base on what could become, right? It would potentially serve as a base on what could become. And as we gather more people, as we gather more guests, I think we could take the conversation to more specific and constrained frameworks. I think especially when we have guests who have conflicting opinions, right? More conflicting opinions, I think it would remain in that specific topic, and we could converse a lot on that. I think.
Yeah.
What do you think? Like, yeah, I think a broad question would be, what is your kind of philosophy on life? I think that would be a broad question. I think that would enable us to get to know where we stand, right? Essentially.
Yeah. So is that a question to me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Question to you. Yeah.
Well, I don't. In the case of meaning of life, well, I don't think we have some kind of set of rules which we should agree on. I don't think there's some set of preset rules which all humans should agree, or something which is entirely what, as any liberal historian would like to tell you, there is nothing, not everything is black and white. There is a big space of nuance. There's a lot of gray area, and sometimes it has more color side. That would be my general view too. Does it make any sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. What do you think about, like, I'm assuming that you have heard of, let's talk about what we think about certain areas of philosophies, right? I think that would provide a good background on where we stand on certain philosophical issues. Like, for example, what do you think about let's say existentialism, so to speak?
Oh, I'm deeply conflicted here. I don't really have an opinion. There's kind of I have kind of referred to debates with free will and existentialism. I'm still confused.
Okay, yeah, that's good. I think more like on existentialism, I think people would even consider me an existentialist, so to speak, because I do believe in free will. I do believe in. I think it's because I think the philosophies that resonate with me most were existentialism and postmodernism, because both are intricately linked to each other. I think existentialism is a precursor to postmodernism. I think even existentialism can be even called the father of postmodernism, so to speak. So those are the philosophies that I follow, and I don't necessarily follow like postmodernism and the Marxism that comes with it. I don't necessarily agree with that. What is your opinion on communism or Marxism, so to speak?
Well, in kind of present sense, I think it's kind of dead, right? That's like a dead philosophy, not exactly dead. It won't really work for humanity to work on. That's the general idea.
Yeah, I think perhaps like Marxism. The problem with Marxism is that I think like postmodernist philosophers, they adopted, like Jean-Paul Sartre, for example. He even renounced Marxism after he saw the destruction it could pose to humanity. Like in case of Stalin and Mao, he saw the destruction and he renounced it. There was this interview by Jordan Peterson that he made this joke. He said that when a French intellectual admits something is wrong, you know that is wrong. Like French intellectuals don't generally admit that they're wrong. So I think Marxism, in the case of Marxism, I think the main problem is with how they analyze the world. See, they try to boil the world down into economy, right? Economy, essentially money. They say that the world is composed of two groups, the bourgeoisie and the proletariats. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm sorry about that. It's just confusing. Yeah. So basically, there are these two groups, right? And he's essentially trying. He and Friedrich Engels, they're essentially trying to take the world, which is an amalgamation of multiple factors. It is not just class. It's not just gender. It is multiple factors that determine how the world is shaped. And he's doing a unitary analysis on that. He's saying that there is this class. Class is the only thing that determines the world. We can define everything by class. I think that possesses a kind of arrogance, in my opinion. I think we should be open to the fact that the world is more complex than we think, and it is. Like I don't think we can ever understand what the world is and how the world works ever, right? I think their intention was right. Intention was right to create a better world. I think all the philosophies are trying for betterment, but I don't think that was the right way to do that. So yeah, that's what I think about Marxism.
Okay, so in the case you talked about economy, so I kind of am a free market. I would identify as a free market liberal. Well, of course, mixed economies would be there, but a completely state controlled form would then be desirable for it to have competitions would be healthy for economic progress and also for the development, I guess.
I think I agree because like let's take like there's this rule, Pareto's principle, that says 80% of results come from 20% of people, 20% of actions. It's not like it's more like a empirical rule. I don't think like the percentages changes, but the point he's trying to make is the fact that let's look at performance in any field, right? I think performance in any field, like majority of the substantial works or performance in any field is produced by the top minority. And I think it's not problematic. Like I don't think like the top people are necessarily more superior than the people who are on the average side of the scale. I don't think extraordinary beats that. That's not my point. My point is I'm just stating the mere statement of a reality, and that's all right. It is all right to choose whoever you want to be. And I think the elimination of abolishment of private property will decrease human motivation. I think that most of the top performers are motivated not just by the love for their craft. I think they are also motivated by the fact that they can compete and be the best at something. They have this chance to be the best at something, and they can amass capital so that they can raise their social status. I think that is an underlying motivation. I'm not saying that's primary motivation. Obviously, for most of them, the primary motivation would be the love for their craft. But I think that's a secondary motivation, and it is quite powerful. And I think abolishment of there is the sentence in Communist Manifesto that says, to sum up in one sentence, it would be abolishing private property. And I think abolishment of private property, so to speak, would cease the progress of these top performers who make substantial contributions to society and help the world grow. I think that would be a big mistake. Like Marx was a little bit idealistic on the fact that he essentially wanted us to create this sort of utopia where people would value their leisure time, where people would do things just for the sake of doing them. But I don't think that's a reality. We have to accept the fact that, like, for example, personally, I do believe that even though I love certain things, I do believe that the competition aspect kind of pushes me forward, right? That's like a secondary aim. I think Marx had the intentions right. He created a philosophy that was discussed and it became his legacy. I think that is his success, right? It became, even after like 100 years, it is still being discussed in universities everywhere. It is still the forefront of discussion, and I think that is something quite amazing, to be honest. But I don't think he was clear on what motivates humans, and I think that's where his mistake was, right?
So, well, in the case of competitions, no, let's not go there. Let's not. About vaccines, about production of vaccines, India is currently facing a kind of shortage of vaccine, and there is a significant majority who are blaming the main countries who had this bulk procurement of, you get what I'm saying, going right. So in that sense, so we have. I do think, in despite of all these things, we are kind of living in the best time of the entire history. If you are someone which period of time would like to go back to and live there, not just visit, there wouldn't be any time rather than this. Probably 1 year, sometimes something could say, because of the pandemic. That's under issue, of course. What I was saying was, there is like humans are generally going towards development, and competitions are necessary. And the fact that we have vaccines in this short amount of time was because these countries with much capital, with wealthier economies, was ready to pay for it or to fund it. So yeah, basically we are going in the right direction, I would say. World in general, we need competitions. We need healthy competitions, of course, and kind of the ideas of political correctness any idea would have its own goods and bads. Of course, this kind of a very nuanced general, everyone probably would agree. Everything has its own bad and good effects. And I think in general, as time progresses, we would just take the good parts of what we would like to, like most people would take the good parts of whatever reform or right or acts was movement what happened in the world. So yeah.
Yeah. I think like perhaps like the truth, so to speak. I think postmodernism possesses the only truth to the world, and even that truth is kind of if you think about it, it's kind of incomprehensible, right? And I think like I don't think people accept that truth as much as they do, like the fact that everything is subjective or everything is relative, right? I don't think that is a truth, and even the disintegration of objective morality. I don't think most people take that as true. I think like perhaps I don't think that will ever be the case, because we do need like even though I don't believe in morality, right? I don't believe in morality. I believe in creating my values. I believe in legality. Legality is reality, right? Like legal systems are reality, and if we want to progress, we have to limit ourselves to these rules that society has created. If we feel like, say, that is too too oppressive, or too what's the word I'm looking for, too, let's say, bad for us to grow as people, we can always try to change it. But I think more importantly, if we feel like the rules are at least that's what I think, like if we feel like the rules are comfortable enough so that we have a space to grow, I think we should we should disperse with the actual phenomenon of trying to change the system and follow that. And I'm by no means saying that the rules are better now. There are a lot of rules that needs to be changed, that oppresses people. One of the fundamental principles that I think about is equality of opportunity, because equality of opportunity, whether people like it or not, will help everyone grow. Even if you are an individualist, which I think I sort of lean into, I think equality of opportunity will help me grow, because we grow as we feel challenged, and we feel challenged by other people. There is no, like, you read a book, that challenges you. It is written by another person, and once we ensure that equality of opportunity arises, I think it will help everybody grow. I think it's like a all people win kind of opportunity, so to speak.
Okay, so I think 1 hour is okay. So to end
1 hour,
with, yeah.
To end with, I think it was quite a productive discussion on what our viewpoints are. Like we diverged from political correctness a lot, but I think that should be fine, because I think what what serves as a good foundational episode is more like what philosophies do we follow by. Personally, I feel like I get to know a person once I find what their personal philosophies are, right? What do they believe in? How do they act? What are their values and all that? I think that was productive in that case. Plus, yeah, I think this will help us find more guests in the future, and I think we can have better intellectual discussions and discourse, and I think it will help us grow. In fact, I think free speech is what helps us grow, right? That's like basic philosophy behind this. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, we need conversations to have progress and to have development, and difference in opinions is actually good, probably.
Yes,
Rather than
exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of not the best way to think. Well, we have a person that everyone in the world cannot have any one single unanimous opinion on anything. So we need discussions and debates, and also to have a proper to have the proper exchange of ideas. And probably this
Yes.
platform would serve as one.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure. Okay.